Well, everybody, we're live here trying to figure out how the heck a 90-year-old can actually go to space and come back. Kudos to Shatner. Anyways, that's not the show we're here about. We're here for Disrupt TV. You're in the green room, and we're going to do some quick introductions with our guests. We'll start with Neha, go to Shep, and then go to Andrew, and we'll do some quick introductions. Neha, where are you calling in from? What are you talking about today?
I'm calling from sunny California, but it has been kind of freezing here. So I think we've swapped places with the East Coast right now. So I am Neha Mirchandani. I'm the CMO and head of people at BrightPlan. We are a fintech company that is democratizing access to financial wellness for everyone. And today I'll be putting a spotlight on an important issue we're faced with as employers, as well as a community at large. We're seeing record number of employees leaving the workforce, a trend that has been termed the Great Resignation, which is creating a hiring and retention crisis. And I'd like to discuss the connection between employee engagement and well-being and what we can do to better support our employees and drive business success. So great to be here today.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. Thank you for being here. Shep, what are you talking about?
Oh, man, I'm here to talk about a new book. I'll be back. How to get your customers to come back again and again. And Vala was so kind to endorse the back of the book. His name's on there. What a kind man he is. Hey, and I'm excited because that's, without a business or without a customer, you don't have business. It's that simple. Neha knows without employees, you might not have a business either. But if you want to do anything with a business, you have to have a customer buying something. So that's what we're going to talk about, how to get them to come back again and again.
Very cool. And we'll go to Andrew. Andrew, what are you here? Where are you calling in from? What are you talking about?
So I'm actually in Seattle. I live in Los Angeles. I'm in Seattle. We have our Authenticate conference next week. So I'm here prepping for that. But I'm here talking about passwords and how we want to move beyond that. I think all of us understand as users that passwords are challenging, hard to remember, hard to enter in small devices, let alone say a smart TV. But ultimately, the bigger problem with passwords is that they bring great risk to businesses and consumers alike. They lead to data breaches, ransomware attacks, all sorts of bad things. So fortunately, we have a band of 250 companies working to create new technology that will allow all of us to access services and be happy customers for Shep, to access things securely and seamlessly in the near future. So I'll be talking about that.
All right, really cool. Elle, do the honors. We're going to start the show. We are running a little bit late, but we're going to have some fun. Let's go.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on Disrupt TV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at Disrupt TV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guests, your questions live using hashtag DisruptTV, and we'll do our best to answer them in the next hour. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He is the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He is the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Surviving and Thriving in a World of Digital Giants. Almost every day you find him on business and technology news, including Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, CNBC, Wall Street Journal. He is a global sought-after keynote speaker, and in my humble opinion, one of the top futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang.
Thanks a lot. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar. You know him as the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of The Pursuit of Social Business Excellence, and I just found out a patent holder in many different ways. Executives around the world pay attention to every one of his inspirational and insightful tweets. And when he's not hosting, keynoting, or leading events at Salesforce, you can find him speaking on business TV outlets such as Bloomberg and posting insightful analyses, especially about this show at ZDNet. So who do we have for our guest today? Who's kicking it off today?
We have an amazing technologies and CMO as our first guest, Andrew Shikiar, who's the Executive Director CMO at Fido Alliance. Andrew's extensive experience driving awareness and adoption of emerging B2B technologies to his role as Executive Director and Chief Marketing at the Fido Alliance, which is a nonprofit industry association of more than 250 companies focused on eliminating the world's dependence on passwords by creating and driving adoption of open standards for simple, stronger user authentication. Andrew has been involved in leading identity and multi-stakeholder organizations since 2001, when he helped recruit initial participants to the Liberty Alliance and was a group manager for Sun Microsystems identity management products and services. He's been involved in the inception of early stage companies or initiatives, including leadership roles at Sun's Java Soft division, as well as with startups in the advanced analytics and electronics marketing industries. You can follow Andrew on Twitter at Andrew Shikiar, AndrewShikiar. Welcome, Andrew, to DisrupTV.
Thank you, Vala. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And Ray just dropped off. Okay. Well,
okay, so 2 of us.
He's dialing in from Dubai. So, okay, Andrew, tell us about the Fido Alliance and what you do. And we know it's a large consortium of amazing companies, but this focus of moving away from passwords, super interesting. Tell us about the Fido Alliance.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me, first of all. And I apologize, I don't have a book to share with anybody. I'll work on that for next time I join you all. Something to work on. So
oh no.
Fido Alliance was launched, way back in 2013 and formed a little before that. And we're closely associated in the industry. People associate us with getting rid of passwords, but the reason why we're doing that is to really solve the data breach problem. A day doesn't go by where you don't hear about a data breach. And the types of attacks that we're seeing more and more of these days include an ongoing spike in phishing, ransomware, and all sorts of attacks by hackers who frankly are smart, industrious, and capitalist. And what the what the Fido Alliance realized at its inception is that the way to attack these problems was to start at the source of the problem, which are passwords. Passwords are fundamentally a technology that aren't fit for purpose for today's networked economy. For the main reason being that they are, it's a shared secret, right? It's something that and that you put that secret on a server, and then you have to prove yourself to that server that that human readable secret. And the problem about, human readable technologies or passwords is that they could be stolen, and they could be, either stolen from you by a hack on that server or through phishing or other means, or by buying your credentials off the dark web. And once that credential is out there in the hands of a bad actor, they can use that to log in not only to that initial site, but since most people don't have unique passwords for each site, they can also crawl the web and try logging into every major e-commerce, travel, banking site that's out there. And the scary thing is that active credential stuffing has around a 2 to 3% success rate because passwords are hard to manage, because it's really impossible to ask anyone to have a unique username and password for every site. So what we need to fundamentally do is move away from this kind of means of authenticating, which is knowledge-based, so what you know, into something that you have in your possession. So you need to use a biometric on your PC, on your phone, or just touch the device, or even a local PIN.
Yeah.
These are technologies you're authenticating locally to that device. Nothing's going over the network. It's inherently more secure and can stop all these remote attacks, full stop.
Ray, before you ask your question, I just want to share some stats that were mind-numbing to me. And I'm a technologist, but I just had no idea this heavy burden that comes with passwords. First of all, over $1 million annual cost to large businesses to reset passwords. Yeah. Over $1 million for large businesses. 81% of data breaches involve weak, default, or stolen passwords. 8 out of 10 breaches are password related. Up to 50% of help desk calls are password reset requests. 50%. Just think about the volume. 50% of users have not changed their password in the last 5 years. By the way, as I'm reading this, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, I'm one of those, which is just super scary.
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. It's live TV.
I know. Let's try to edit that. Collectively, we have spent 1,300 years each day entering passwords. 1,300 years a day. And on average, a user has 90 plus accounts that require passwords. I hope Salesforce is part of the Fido Alliance, because these numbers are ridiculously scary and heavy. And now that I know 8 out of 10 breaches are passwords related, it's just unbelievable. It's somewhat intuitive. I just never thought about it. Go ahead, Ray. Sorry for
no, but that begs the question, right? The question is, why are we still using passwords to authenticate, right? And if we're not using passwords, what do we use, right? And and what are those alternatives? And I guess we'll set you up here. We'll tee you up, Andrew. What do we use? What's going on?
Yeah, first off, I want to add one statistic that's very important to Vala's list of astonishingly scary password data points. A well-designed phishing attack, right? Not your Nigerian prince, random email, but a well-designed phishing attack has over a 50% success rate. So not just you clicking on that email, but you actually getting phished. right? And I think that's another data point. It's really important to think about in the
But I
context.
really wanted to see everyone's bonus numbers. Come on.
Yeah. Well, Ray, you say that at Salesforce, we have what we call a red team, and this team aggressively tries to attack the 70,000 employees. In other words, we have courses on Trailhead every year that's mandatory for every employee, but we have an active red team that's bonused on getting us. And you'd be amazed, I won't go into details, of how unbelievably smart these attacks are.
Yes.
Unbelievably smart.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, sorry. You were talking to Andrew about why do we still use passwords?
Yeah. So we use
Why do
we use passwords because that's what we've always done. So passwords are part of the DNA of the web itself. And it's an unfortunate kind of artifact of just kind of the way the web was launched. And, I don't think this was fully contemplated, the way we're using the internet to conduct commerce, to interact with each other, to do everything. Wasn't really contemplated when at the onset of the World Wide Web, and simply put, it's not fit for purpose anymore. And we need to take steps to change the DNA of the way we do things on the web. Intuitively, you go to a website, you look for the username and password box, and you can create your account there. So there's a lot of learned behavior in using passwords. So that's one issue why we still use passwords. But the bigger reason why we still use passwords is that until recently, there wasn't really scalable, stronger technology that could replace passwords and be as ubiquitous as passwords. So one thing we do see a lot of, which is a mild improvement, but not the answer. We see a lot of two-factor authentication using, say, SMS OTPs, where you get a message to validate yourself on your phone. You enter that into the device to validate yourself. Better than passwords alone. But also keep in mind, that's still a server-side shared secret, which can be phished and can be stolen and can be worked around. So even that's not the answer. So what we need to fundamentally do, and what we're trying to do, is shift the market away from this kind of knowledge-based, way of thinking to something that's more possession-based. And what we use, our technology, is asymmetric public key cryptography, and that's both a mouthful and an earful. But what it means is that instead of actually having a credential on the server that is human readable, you have a unique key pair, right? So think of it as a locking key, even though it's called a public key and private key. Yep. I create an account. All that sits on the server now is a public key, which has no material value. And a hacker could steal it. They can't do anything with it. But the secret, the valuable part is a private key. And that stays on my device. It's only activated once I verify myself to that. So whether I'm using a biometric, or any sort of local, way of authenticating myself to that, a biometric, a PIN, or a variety of things, that activates a private key, if you will, to then, allow the authentication to happen. And it's just now that the technology is actually being, supported at scale. So what's happened over the past couple of years, through the work that our members have done, is that we now see FIDO technology available on the vast majority of computing devices. In fact, every device that's being unboxed this very moment, the vast majority of those can support FIDO. That includes every Windows 10 or Windows 11 PC, every modern Android handset, every modern Apple device can use FIDO. So because of that, we're starting to see, the first steps we need to take to move beyond passwords. We're seeing service providers start to implement this at scale. So a great example of this is eBay. If you go to ebay.com, if any of you have an eBay account, I encourage you to log in and see what they offer you to do. And what they'll ask you to do is say, look, you can now use what you use to log into your device to log into eBay, right? So if that's a Windows Hello, if that's Touch ID, whatever it might be, you can use that instead of relying on your password. And so we're starting to see more and more companies begin to implement this. And I do think that we're going to see a tidal wave of FIDO-based passwordless solutions over the next couple of years. So
you've got FIDO provides strong authentication system. Passwords are inherently risky to the economy. We saw a company spending $1 million just resetting every year. They sit on servers, which means they're susceptible to being hacked. And local authentication on devices that you own sound like an incredibly better model. So this all seems just rational thinking and innovation. You're the CMO, you represent the brand of the company, and you're the storyteller of the company. And you've got these $1 trillion market cap companies that are members of FIDO. You mentioned a couple of them with Microsoft and Google. You've got the largest banks in the world as FIDO members. Is it hard to get these giants to be part of the consortium, or how do you pull them in?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's a real interesting thing to think about. And I've been involved with some, variety of multi-stakeholder kind of standards type groups throughout my career. I've bounced between this and private industry, for-profit, and or attempted to be for-profit companies as well. I think the key thing about standards when you think about them, it's really a collective decision to commoditize certain pieces of technology that aren't necessarily an area of competitive differentiation. All right, so you think about things like I always tell, like in layman's terms, think about light sockets and light bulbs. At some point way back when, all the lighting manufacturers and the lamp manufacturers said, well, you know what, it's more efficient to have everything be this shape and screw this way, so it allows us to have greater efficiency in our manufacturing. We can focus on our areas of differentiation. The same thing happens with technology standards, whether that's HDMI or Bluetooth or Fido. And so I think that people, technology companies understand the value of standards, and the buyers understand it as well. What's been unique with Fido is that everyone's really rallied behind this approach, right? If you look at the IoT landscape, it's terribly fragmented. There's different ecosystems, competing ecosystems. It's just now being rationalized. But there's never been any sort of anti-Fido. There's never been a Betamax or a VHS, not to state myself. But really, everyone who's really needs to be sitting around the table is sitting around the table. So we have the people who make the platforms and devices we ship every day. So I mentioned Microsoft and Google, also Apple. Apple joined in January 2020, was a really powerful signal that this is the body where industry work is happening around strong authentication. But also Samsung, Intel, Qualcomm, from chipset on up, they're all sitting inside of Fido. We also have experts in biometrics and security, right? So like longtime stalwarts like RSA, Thales, groups like that, but also there's a ton of innovative startup companies, which is part of my personal passion, is finding these companies that have great ideas, they're innovating upon this open technology and creating awesome solutions. And then last but not least, we have, you mentioned before, the big banks, but the big service providers, payment networks, companies who, they have the very real business imperative and the need to deliver, securely deliver high assurance services to billions of users worldwide on a daily basis. So Visa, MasterCard, American Express, the big banks, but also Amazon, Twitter, Facebook.
Wow.
List goes on. They all take part inside the Fido Alliance because they have the use cases, the vendor members have the expertise, and it's really worked out quite well to shape the technical outputs. We have a robust certification program, and everyone's very focused now on market enablement, education, and things like that. So
that's amazing. You've got all the trillion-dollar market cap companies. You named all of them, which is amazing. So what TCP/IP did for the internet, or what HTTP did for the web, Fido is doing for secure access. That's just amazing.
That's the analogy we try to work towards. So again, the ubiquity of passwords has enabled it to be, the default way of going. The ubiquity of SMS OTP also has been kind of the low-hanging fruit for multi-factor authentication. Now, the big shift we're going to see is, again, moving from knowledge-based authentication to possession-based. You're going to see this implemented in platforms pretty soon. So a couple of data points on this. Last June at Worldwide Developer Conference, Apple announced the intent to create something called passkeys, which will be synced across the iCloud keychain. And Apple's done remarkable work consumerizing security technology. Yeah. Touch ID, Face ID. These are things. This is consumerization of security technology, which is incredibly difficult to do. Right. So with passkeys, what they're saying now, you can use iCloud keychain. When you create an account, instead of using a complex password, using iCloud keychain, those push out a Fido public key onto that server, and the private key stays in the device and is synced across iCloud. Google, awesome. Microsoft, doing the same sort of work. Those three companies are working in lockstep to bring this vision to reality, not just for enterprise, which is not, I shouldn't say just, but in addition to enterprise, also for consumers at scale. And a couple of weeks ago, Microsoft announced 190 million plus Microsoft account holders can go passwordless. Google announced that they're mandating multi-factor authentication for a big chunk of the G Suite users. So the good news is the technology is now in place for this to start happening at scale. We have the commitment for this to happen at scale. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think the pieces are in place for us collectively to move to a safer, connected future.
In preparation,
and Andrew, real quick, you've got a conference coming up at your Authenticate Con that's going on. Tell us a little bit any special announcements that are going on. So,
you want breaking news on Disrupt?
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Yeah. So there'll be some announcements. So it's our first physical conference. Authenticate It's an industry conference for those who care about modern authentication. We're having it here in Seattle. It's an in-person conference and remote conference. So we're going to have a couple hundred people in masks, vaccinated, sitting together, learning about authentication, and then several hundred more attending remotely. We'll have some announcements. We'll be announcing a couple key things. One, and I'll go ahead and tease it now. But I think an important thing for us as an industry to do is to understand what progress we're making. Let's keep ourselves honest. So we're going to be introducing a barometer, if you will, to track, from today as day 0, to track password habits or passwordless habits today, and we'll track that on a moving forward basis to gives ourselves a longitudinal baseline, if you will. Another very important thing, I mentioned the pieces are in place for this to be deployed, but there still needs to be experts in the field who can help bring this into fruition. So we're going to be detailing a program that authentication professionals can tap into to hone and improve their FIDO-related deployment and development skills.
That's amazing.
This is awesome. Work. We're here with Andrew Shikiar, Executive Director and CMO of the Fido Alliance. You can follow him on Twitter at Andrew SHIKIAR. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Andrew.
Gentlemen, thanks for having me.
Thanks
really
so
appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you.
Hey, good luck with your conference, Steve.
Yeah, in researching for this interview, I had no idea of
cool
innovation happening around passwords. I was blown away. Anyway, speaking of being amazed and blown away, our next guest, a world expert, Shep Hyken. He's the Chief Amazement Officer at Hyken. Shep Hyken is a customer service experience expert and a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author of 8 books, Ray. 8. 8
I
books.
know, man. Amazing.
Shep works with companies and organizations like Salesforce who want to build loyal relationships with their customers and employees. His articles have been read in hundreds of publications, and he's author of, again, 8 books. Now, his most recent book, I'll Be Back, How to Get Customers to Come Back Again and Again, was released just in September last month. I don't know why I said that with an accent.
You need the glasses to go with it.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Shep is also creator of Customer Focus, a customer service training program that helps clients develop customer service culture and loyalty mindset. He's one of the most entertaining keynote speakers I've ever seen. He's an amazing follow on Twitter at Hyken. Imagine how early he was an adopter. He has it as Hyken. I tried to get Vala on, I couldn't. Welcome back, Shep, to DisrupTV.
Great to be here. Great to be here. You know why I have at Hyken? Because they told me originally you could have 140 characters.
Yes.
And I said, why waste 4 of them on my first name? So otherwise, at Shep Hyken is probably better.
Only celebrities have just their last name on Twitter. So you're an early adopter for sure.
Oh, thanks. And then Hyken.com. I was an early adopter of websites, and you have no idea all the Hykens that I've never met that are irritated with me, write me letters, emails, saying, how is it that you have my name?
Yeah. Well, write 8 best-selling books and you get to have a cool domain.
Well, thanks for having
amazing.
me. Guys.
Look,
it's
this is
great to see both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I mean, you've been talking about customer service and customer experience, and you know what? You keep talking about it. This is your 8th book, and each book is different. I don't know how you do that. What's new in this one? Give us some quick overview and some highlights of what's going on.
Sure. What's new? There probably about every book I have has foundational material in it. So I would say once we get past 10 or 15% of that foundational material, everything else is pretty much brand new. I keep writing articles every week, at least a couple. But this is what got me started on this book. I was doing business with a hair salon franchisor. Can you imagine they hired me to talk to the hair salon owners and managers?
It's your years of expertise.
I mean, it's like, how do I do my market research? I said to my kid, hey, go in there and tell me how it is. But seriously, the CEO was talking to me about how we measure success. And I asked them what were their measurements. And they did the typical CSAT, customer satisfaction, net promoter score, likelihood to recommend, all those types of surveys. And then I said, so do you love them? He goes, well, yeah. I said, but I sense there's a but. He goes, yeah, there is a but. And my terminology was all of these stats and surveys that you get are history lessons. It's what happened yesterday. And he goes, that's right. And I said, but you're getting ready to tell me what you're doing. And I know it was kind of clued in before. He measures behavior. And he said, it's great to know whether we did a good job yesterday. It's great to know whether they'd recommend us. That makes us feel good, and we learn from that. We know what happened. We know what we can fix if it needs to be fixed. We know what works, that we need to, what we need to keep doing. But we also need to measure the behavior. Do they come back? And so the idea was, and Ray, you cut your hair probably, or Vala, you probably cut your own hair. Yes?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
But Ray, you can tell. I can see that you spend a lot of money.
Oh, he's
Every
Hollywood.
month
Hollywood
looking
Ray.
that good, right? And so how often do you go to get your
Sadly,
hair?
no, but go ahead.
But you probably go once a month or so to get your hair cut, right?
No, I have my hair cut at home now.
Okay, well, that's cool. Yeah, see, COVID changes everything. All right, well, you're messing with my story.
But I used to get it like once every 3 weeks. Go for it. Go ahead.
Okay,
Let's say I spent hundreds of dollars on a haircut.
I just kid with you that, but this is what this gentleman said to me. He says, we know what regular customers look like. It could be a man, a woman, long hair, short hair, curly hair, color. You put color. How often they come back, what the cadence of a regular customer is. So what we want to do is move this brand new customer or this once in a while customer into the cadence of a regular customer, a repeat customer. And once we have them on that, we need to convert them to a loyal customer. And we watch that behavior like a hawk, because that's really what's going to measure our success. Great to know we did a great job. Great to know what we need to fix so we can do better next time. But we need to look at that behavior to know exactly what our business is doing. So that's what started me writing about the book. And yeah, there's a chapter in there that's the most important measurement. And there it is. And that's the one that you track the actual behavior. Do they come back?
I think it's super insightful, very simple. As a former chief customer officer, understanding propensity to buy, repeat business, frequency of purchase, size of purchase, things that give you, a trending analysis in terms of, are you building a stronger relationship, or you're earning the trust of future business with your client. Now, did you need Governor Schwarzenegger's approval for the title? Tell us about the title.
So, Arnie, I wish he would have. I tried to reach out to him to get him to endorse the book. That's all I wanted, was him to simply say, read this book so your customers will say, I'll be back. But I about 3 paragraphs into my outline, not even writing the book, I said, wait a minute, who made these words famous? The Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I thought, well, the book's not about that, but I can't not incorporate that into it. So if you want to win an Arnie, which is kind of like winning the Stevie in customer service, and Vala and I were talking about this before the show started, the Stevie is a great award, or you can win the Tony for a stage on Broadway. You can win, the Oscar. Well, how about the Arnie? And the Arnie is when your customer says, I'll be back. With or without the accent.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. In one of your chapters, you talk about this amazing customer experience. It's within the reach of every company, but a lot of people can't see it. They can't put themselves in the right frame of mind. But how do you get them there? What's the important piece for them to just get that aha moment and say, yes, I can do this?
Yes, it's actually, this is one of the foundational concepts. There's that in the moment of truth, misery, and magic, but this is what kind of kicks it all off. So customer amazement doesn't come from being over the top, blow me away, most incredible service I've ever had. By the way, when that happens, it is amazing. But the typical day in and day out things that you do for your customer probably aren't amazing. I returned a phone call. I sent an email. I responded quickly to a need, whatever. Those seem like normal, but here's what makes them better and makes them amazing. When the customer recognizes that, maybe you're a little bit better than average. How much better? A tiny bit better. Horst Schultz from the Ritz-Carlton, co-founder and first president, said, if you're just 10% better than average, you can create an iconic brand, world recognized. Now, what that means is on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is bad and 5 is amazing, 3 is average. All you got to do is be at 3.3 or better. And as long as you are consistently, and that's the key word, consistently, which means it's predictable, your customer will say things like, they're always so knowledgeable. They always get back to me quickly. They're always friendly. They always take care of me, even when there's a problem. The word always followed by something positive. And when that's happening, you're operating in that zone of amazement. And that's where customers say they're amazing. And they want to come back. It's that simple. And it's really not hard But I guess what makes it hard is that it's a consistent effort of always looking at it. And one other comment about that is if you are average, if you're a 3 on a scale of 1 to 5, customers don't complain about average. So you never know whether you're doing a good job. I'm writing an article for Halloween. I call it the nightmare customer. And guess what? That's the one that doesn't complain. They just disappear. Right. And you thought they were happy because they never said anything. Well, guess what, my friends? If they're not talking, you don't know. You got to find out. Once again, another metric to look at.
That is such an important, for those of us who've spent time in customer service, we know 2 types of people. They're the talkers and the walkers. And the most dangerous impact to your business is when they don't talk, but they walk away. And you find out. So no feedback doesn't mean they're satisfied. No feedback just means no feedback. So it's such an important distinction. By the way, I'm reading Shep's books, like all the books I've read, and I'm in agreement. Every chapter, I'm like, yes, 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 until I get to chapter 5, and he says, nothing has changed in customer service. And I know Shep is a technologist. I know he's following machine learning and chatbots and customer journeys
AI.
And AI. And so I'm like, what is he talking about? And then I read it. And I'm like, okay. So tell us about why that you had this very powerful statement in chapter 5.
Well, nothing has changed yet. So much has changed, but really at the end of it all, you can go back 1,000 years, whatever the first customer service experience ever was. And here's how it went. I need help. Yes, I'll help you. Oh, thank you for helping me. Customers started out with a problem, a question, an issue, and at the end, they were happy. And if we go to 1,000 years into the future, this is exactly what the customer wants, and they will want in the future. Now, what has changed are the methods and the ways we go about doing it. But really, in the end, it's what happens in the beginning, what happens at the end that counts. So even if the customer is coming at you with a complaint and they're really upset, at the end, they want to be happy or they wouldn't be taking the time to let you know how upset they were. So in the middle, AI and chatbots and self-service and everything else. But in the end, you want them happy.
Absolutely true.
No, it's a great point. And everywhere in the book, I mean, there's some great lessons learned. I mean, in chapter 7, it's a great one. I mean, you talk about this whole notion of the shortest customer speech you ever gave. I don't want to give it away, but it was 2 words long. What was it? Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
Let's do it. 2 minutes long. That's all I had to give it was 2 minutes. It was 2 words long. Right. 2 words. Short story is I'm hired to do the keynote speech, closing speaker, and the executive who hired me says, Shep, we got to end at 4:30 today. We've got somewhere we're taking everybody on a bus to an event. We cannot be late. So whatever time you go on, you end at 4:30. If you go on early, you're welcome to use extra time. But if you go on late, your time is cut. Well, the people ahead of me kept going longer and longer. There were 2 minutes left. And the client says to me, I'm really sorry, we're not going to be able to put you on. And I'm thinking, no, I got to go on. I said, don't worry, I got this covered and we'll be done by 4:30. So I walked out on stage and applause is there. Thank you very much. I said, everybody, you're looking at your watch wondering, how am I going to do this and us be out in the next 2 minutes? Well, my friends, I've got it covered. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you the shortest customer service speech of all time. So just imagine I was introduced, the same applause you gave me. Here I am in the middle of the stage. Are you ready? Here we go. Be nice. And then I started to walk off stage. And then I came back to the middle. I go, okay, I know what you're thinking. Be nice. And I said, but come on, think about it. You can have the best food in the world at a restaurant, but if you're not nice to the customer's not coming back. This is foundational. Everything you do, all the sophisticated technology and ideas and processes that you have, you still have to be nice and offer a friendly experience. Now, I've got about another 30 seconds left. I just want to tell you it's been great to be here. I'll see you next year, and I'll finish the rest of the speech. Enjoy yourselves. Boom, I'm done.
That's awesome. So awesome. What I love about your book is there's so many tweetable sections and nuggets of wisdom sprayed across every other page of the book. You can randomly pick a page in the book and you got something you can share on social media. One of my favorite things you said, when one employee remembers the customer, that means, parentheses, from the customer's point of view, end parentheses, that the entire organization has remembered the customer. So when one person is nice to a customer, the perception from the customer's point of view is that the company is nice to me. And I think that's such a powerful human element where you're right, 1,000 years ago or 1,000 years in the future, at the end of the day, you're building relationships with people. And you also write that you can't automate relationship building. You can automate processes, you can automate workflow, but relationships can't be automated. So we had the head of McKinsey Research for US on our show, and he said during 2020 pandemic, 75% of US consumers tried a new brand and never went back to the old brand. 75% shifted to an unheard of number. So it was almost a rest in peace brand loyalty. So a great lesson was, and it was because of safety, accessibility, value. Obviously, during the pandemic, a lot of companies had difficulty delivering products and services.
They missed opportunity where competitors figured it out quickly.
Exactly. But a great lesson there, which is what you cover in chapter 8, is don't confuse repeat customer to loyal customer.
Yes.
Can you tell us the difference? Because this country, by the way, worldwide, I think the average was 60. In India, as much as 92%. So unbelievable numbers in terms of disloyalty. What's the difference between, or what defines a loyal customer?
Yep. And back to a comment you made where one person, where the company refers to, or a customer refers to them when it was one person. I call that the awesome responsibility where one of us represents all of us. But to get to your current question, which, it's the difference between repeat versus loyalty. It's great to have repeat business, and that is solid gold. And I want everybody to go for repeat business. But the next level is loyalty. We have to understand why customers are buying from us. Are they buying from us because we're the lowest price? Well, one, and as soon as somebody has a lower price, we lose. Are they buying because we're closer to them and because they drive to us and the next competitor is 2 or 3 miles down the road? What happens if the competitor moves closer? And I know Vala and Ray, both of you fly extensively and you're racking up frequent flyer miles probably on, I'm not going to ask Ray because he, with the hair thing, messed my story up before. No, just kidding. but most people rack their frequent flyer miles up on one
I'm a
airline.
United guy. Here you go. Okay, I'm a United guy.
United guy. And you know what? I'm an American guy and I love American Airlines. And the question is, if I ask a lot of people, who do you fly on? Why? Do you have your frequent flyer miles? Yeah. What if I ask you to fly on the other airline? Well, I want to get all my miles over here. Take away the miles. Take away all the perks. Everybody's equal. Will you still fly on that airline? That's the question. So the answer is what's motivating people to fly and give this airline repeat business has nothing to do with true loyalty. It has to do with marketing, which, a lot of loyalty programs are really marketing programs or repeat business programs. Nothing wrong with that, but figure out a way to bump it up a notch and create the loyal customer.
It's a great point. I mean, customers are trading loyalty for convenience, loyalty for value, loyalty for a mission and purpose, loyalty for, they're just not loyal. When you go down and break it down, airlines is a great one. Why do you fly American, Shep?
Well, I like the miles. No, actually, they treat me really, really well. I've been flying on American so long. People who've never been with me before, that we walk through the airport and all the gate agents are going, "Hey, Shep." It's because it's like, and there's a chapter in the book where everybody knows your name from the TV show Cheers. I feel like I'm walking into the bar and my name is Norm. And for those that have no idea what I'm talking about, just Google the TV show Cheers. Watch an episode. You'll know what I'm talking about. They personalize the experience by making me feel like I'm connected to that airline.
So in one of the final chapters of the book, in one of the final chapters of the book,
go ahead.
We talked about 6 steps for getting people to come back. Can you quickly talk to us about
I'm going to go through them real fast because I know we're tight on time. We want to give Neha a chance to come out and share her expertise. So the idea, I call it the I'll be back experience. How do you create that? And there's 6 steps. You meet with your team. Number 1, answer these questions. Why would someone do business with us? And don't say something as simple as, we have great service, because everybody else can say that. What really makes you different? Number 2, why would a customer do business with the competitor? Now, when you say those are good reasons why a customer might not do business with us and them, keep pace. That's step number 3. What can we take from the competitor and use for us? But don't copy. Make it something different. Make it unique. Make it personalized, even though it's something similar. Think about, there was some really smart hotel guy that once said, hey, let's give the guests a newspaper. And when they come down in the morning, and the next hotel said, look what they're doing over there. We're going to have to give them newspapers too, but let's make it better. Let's put it at their door. You see, they just bumped it up a notch. All right, step 4, I want you to look outside your industry. I want you to ask yourselves, what companies do I love doing business with and why? And the step 5 is the why. If they have some really good reasons why, can you use them for your business? You may have to modify them. Now, you can copy them exactly the same if it works for you, because guess what? They're not in your industry. They're outside the industry. So then you look at step number 6, which is to go back and look at the answers you had and what you've implemented from the first few steps. And you say to yourself, now that we've done this, now why would a customer want to do business with us instead of them? You'll learn to take from your competitors, and you'll hopefully learn a lot from looking at your outside of the industry companies that you love.
Amazing.
Super amazing.
That's the
Chef,
fastest
where can we
I
get
ever
the book?
shared
Is
that.
the book out? Is the book out
is
yet?
out. It came out
Yes.
September 21. So it's been out, oh gosh, not even about 3 weeks or so. Doing really well. It's tracking well. We're excited. Sales are great. And I hope that everybody watching this show goes to Amazon or wherever they love to buy books and buy the book.
Awesome.
Well, you took my line. Shep Hyken, Chief Amazement Officer of Hyken and More Publishing. You can follow him on Twitter at HYKEN and get his book wherever books are sold. So, hey, thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, sir. Terrific. He's helping my company better serve our customers. So one of the world's leading customer service and customer experience experts. Now, talking about amazing people, amazing CMOs. Neha Mirchandani is CMO and head of people. Ray, first time that I've had a CMO, CHRO, one person that I know at BrightPlan. Neha leads marketing and people functions at BrightPlan, a leader in total financial wellness. Neha has extensive experience in B2B and SaaS marketing and HR, and her career spans global enterprise technology companies as well as innovative startups. Previously, Neha was CMO at Topia, a cloud global talent mobility company, but her career has had senior roles through companies such as RingCentral, Cisco, Adobe, I mean, big companies. You can follow Neha on Twitter at NMIRCHI. Welcome, Neha, to DisrupTV.
Thanks, Vala, and great to be here today. Wow, that's a tough one to follow, I have to say. Shep, oh my gosh, I'm a huge fan, as I mentioned earlier. He's just phenomenal. He's amazing. For sure.
Really is.
No,
Really
Shep is amazing. Always fun to have him. But hey, you're doing some amazing things as well. I mean, you've gone from a CMO to a chief people officer. That's pretty crazy. So that's a big shift that's going on out there. So what does that mean? So how do you make that shift? And what does that mean in the long term?
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, Vala, in terms of my depth of experience in marketing and HR. But to be completely transparent, you know, I'm deep, like a mile deep in the marketing world. But I would say, frankly, scratching the surface of HR because, you know, BrightPlan is the first company where I've led the people function as well. And initially I was like, I'll be transparent with you. I went on to LinkedIn and I'm like, have I ever seen these two roles together? Kind of like what you said. And I did a LinkedIn search and you will be surprised. There are people, not just me, that actually have these two roles together. And I think they're really onto something. Because I mean, going back to a lot of what Shep was talking about, right, around the customer experience, and I know we talked a lot about that. Who drives that customer experience? It's the people. It's your employees, right? So there's a super tight connection between both of these elements. And if you really think about the context of what's happening in the world right now and what's top of mind, and I know Salesforce, because I chat with quite a few HR leaders at Salesforce on an ongoing basis. And what's top of mind is really how do you drive employee engagement in the current market? And how do you you know, kind of create a culture of care and ensure that your employees are well? How are you, right, is a very deep question today. It's no longer about I'm well, but there are so many complex issues that we are dealing with. So it's an incredible time.
There are definitely a lot of parallels, right? Like what's recruiting? It's really marketing, right? What's the customer journey? You think about the employee journey, right? When you think about like what you actually have to do for, benefits, that's really the same thing as product marketing and features. I mean, I always thought these things were pretty similar. So it sounds like a very exciting. Yeah.
As you talk about it, it makes total sense. And yet we've had almost 800 guests on DisrupTV over the last 5 years. 50, 60, 100 CMOs and CHROs we've never had, I don't think we've ever had a guest that had both functions. So great to know it's an emerging space and great to know you're a trailblazer. And, obviously employee well-being is so important to the company's brand, especially the last 18 months. I often tweet, you can't expect customers to love your company before your employees do. So, the brand of companies, especially in a hyper-connected knowledge sharing economy, is your employees. So in a typical day for you, how much of your time and energy is spent on the people side versus the marketing side, or are they starting to blend more into each other in order to create that healthy environment and healthy company brand?
That's a really great question, Vala. And I don't know if you knew this about BrightPlan, but our customers and our buyer is actually HR. So that's another very unique lens because I'm marketing, even in my marketing hat, I'm marketing to the HR person, and being in the people function, I really do understand it because that's my day-to-day job as well. So I see this incredible blend, right? And it's just an interesting time to be in that space.
That makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, we definitely see that as an important area. Quick question. What is this role of financial wellness in this mix? A lot of folks are trying to figure this out. The Great Resignation means work-life balance. The Great Resignation means, maybe I want to try a different job. Maybe I try something different. Maybe I'm looking at my financial side differently. So how does this all come together? Because this is one of the biggest challenges. You've got 9.5 million job openings, 9 million people unemployed, and 4.5 million people who we've disappeared. Nobody knows where they went in the whole employment mix. I mean, this is a great mystery to begin with.
Yeah, and I know I referenced the Great Resignation earlier, Ray, but I like to think about it as we're faced with the Great Reckoning because COVID really put things in perspective for employees in terms of what's important, what are my priorities? I want work-life balance. You put the younger generation in the mix, right? And what's important to them, they want to work for companies that are really well aligned with their mission and their purpose. And so there's so many things that are happening that are leading to, as you referenced, the Great Resignation. We're also hearing about early retirement. And the other day I heard this term called perpetual retirement. And I was like, what is that? And that's sort of like people going in and out of the workforce, taking a couple of years off, coming back in, going into consulting roles. So kind of a different blended world. And this is actually creating a crisis, as I said earlier, around attracting and hiring top talent. It's a hyper competitive market right now. And you need to really be focused on holding on to your top people. And this is in this context is where, culture of care, which is about genuinely caring about your people and their well-being. And when I say well-being, I'm talking about two different aspects here. One is the wellness of the whole person, because before the employer used to be focused on, hey, I'm only going to worry about the employee, the part of the employee that comes to work, right? Well, lo and behold, the work-life world is completely blended and integrated. So we need to be really worrying about the whole person, the person at home, the person at work, and in many cases, their families as well as employers. And then if you take that, if you peel the onion even further there, it's about total wellness. And what I mean about that is, it's no longer worrying about people's physical health or their mental health or their financial health. It's really about the whole person and their total wellness, right? So there's a huge focus and a shift that we're seeing. And then in that mix, if you bring in diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is another topic which is incredibly top of mind right now for employers, because wellness and diversity, equity, and inclusion, they go hand in hand. because if your employees, don't feel like every single employee feels like you understand their individualized needs, they're not going to feel like they belong in the environment that you've created for them. So again, it's the DE&I conversation is so much bigger. It's so much bigger than just equal pay and equal opportunity and equal, diverse hiring practices. It's really about creating that culture of inclusion. So, getting to your specific question around financial wellness, Ray, and I appreciate that question. If you just look at the data around how people are feeling today, 65%. So we did a survey in the May-June timeframe of this year where we asked employees as well as HR leaders what's top of mind for them. And we found that 65% of employees today are stressed about their finances. And this stress, if you look at how that translates into lack of productivity and lack of engagement, it's costing employers approximately $5 billion a week in lost productivity. That is huge. And this is just in the US alone, right? And so this is a huge problem. Along with mental health, because people are feeling burnt out right now. So, financial wellness can definitely make a huge impact, not just on a person's financial health, but also their total wellness and their total well-being, which is going to have a positive impact on business success as well.
I just want to follow up on that. What are some of the causes of that on the financial wellness? Is it like student loan debt? Is it like housing? I mean, are there things people have identified?
Yeah, it is all of the above, Ray. And for different people, it's different things. But a lot of people, due to the pandemic, either they lost jobs themselves or someone in their family did. Caregiving, if you think about that, right, with health issues, right? And this is where women, by the way, were
Yes.
really, I mean, you just look at the
Adversely
stats, right?
impacted.
Yeah, you look at 2.5 million women left the workforce. And of that, 50% of those were Black and Hispanic women. And that's because of, the bulk of caregiving responsibilities really fall on women. And they're also in lower paying jobs, right? So there's a blended reason for all of these things, where I feel like the pandemic has really amplified the issues and the challenges that we face as a society.
Yeah, I mean, the combination of health crisis, economic crisis, climate crisis in the US with floods and droughts and hurricanes and racial inequality crisis, the combination of all of this, so the notion of mental health, physical health, financial health, that total wellness, our research shows that a hybrid work environment can have a positive impact in terms of delivering, good health to employees. And my understanding is at BrightPlan, you're hiring talent regardless of where they live. So there's no longer physical dependency. So you're all in terms of just, if there's a talented person that can contribute to the business, it doesn't matter where you live. Is that an accurate understanding of BrightPlan? And can you talk about some other trends that, like this mass acceptance of remote work as a result of the pandemic, and where you see us keeping some of these trends and behaviors as we move through the pandemic era?
Yeah, so to your first question, Vala, we made the decision as a leadership team in October of last year with the pandemic that we were going to move into a permanent work from anywhere in the US environment.
Wow.
And so, yes, our employees, we were based in the Bay Area, and we all know the high costs of living here in the Bay Area. So most of our employees really moved out all over the country. And that has definitely given us an edge in terms of attracting top talent, no matter where they are, and supporting our customers, right, with that.
Awesome.
So that's definitely been a strong move. In terms of the trends, I did touch on them a little bit earlier, which is this hybrid, flexible work environment that we're talking about is here to stay, right? And both of you know this better than anyone else. The future of work is now, and that future of work is, we're never going backwards, right? We're never going back to way the world was. But some of the other trends that I see, as I mentioned, is this culture of care, culture of well-being, this genuinely caring about your employees, and not just that this is a personal problem And employees' health and wellness is not a personal problem. It's an employer problem. It's a societal problem, right? Because it has a direct impact on business success. So, I would say those are some of the key things.
So holistic success, meaning you're thinking about the well-being of your employees, your customers, your partners, the communities you serve. So really core values have been not necessarily redefined, but the notion of trust and stakeholder success has risen to the top priority given the pandemic. Is that what you see with your clients and the trends throughout the industry?
Absolutely, Vala. The way I talk about this is HR used to be seen as a back office, for lack of a better way of putting this, function.
No more.
Right, no more. You see the CHRO has a very strategic seat at the table from a C-suite perspective. And when you think about what are the issues that are top of mind for the CEO, the CFO, the CHRO, it is people-related issues. Because what is a company if it is not for their people, right? Because that is what is going to drive the success of your business and create the happy employees as well as create the happy customers, right? So it is definitely a shift.
We're definitely seeing that shift. I mean, if you're at the last HR Tech conference or if you've been to any SHRM meetings, right, you've seen that, we've gone away from HR not just being a cost center, but also an extension of legal, right, to being a lot more employee facing, customer facing, a representative of the brand. And so we're seeing a lot of new trends kind of emerge. What do you think, and where do you think HR leaders are going to move forward? Like, if you take a look into the future, what kind of advice would you offer to your peers as to where the future goes and what might happen in the next 18 months?
Yeah, so if I could answer that question slightly differently, Ray, I would want to summarize maybe what are the 4 things that are top of mind for HR today and how that is going to drive the future. So I think the first thing is, going back to the war for talent and the great resignation and the great reckoning, the way I talked about it, if you just look at the number of jobs and in terms of, you stated this data point as well, there's over 10 million job openings today in the US. And if you look at the latest numbers, 4.3 million people quit their jobs in August of 2021. So there is a huge crisis that we are faced with, and employers really need to figure out how they differentiate in the market in order to be able to attract and retain top talent. So I would say that is the number one top challenge for HR and businesses today. Number 2, I'll try to be quick on these. Employee experience and engagement. Over 60% of employees are saying that they're disengaged at work today. Wow. Again, huge number, and this has a direct impact, right, on productivity and business success. Number 3, holistic wellness. 85% of employees say that their well-being has declined due to the pandemic. And this is holistic wellness, which includes, overwhelm, mental burnout, financial stress, etc. And the 4th and final one I would want to touch on is this culture of inclusion and belonging and making sure that you're addressing the needs of all of the different populations within your employee base. So these are some of the things that are really top of mind.
I thought the password stats were scary. The password stats?
The security.
Goodness,
these are scarier.
Disengaged, 85% struggling more. These are unbelievable stats. Wow.
I want to touch on the last one on inclusion, which is interesting. Between folks that are working from home, folks that are in the office, we're seeing a lot of interesting tension with remote work and hybrid work in terms of people feeling that they're included in meetings or people feeling that they're in conversations. And we've talked to a lot of managers over the last, I'd say, 3 weeks. And there seems to be an interesting consensus that you're either all at home or you're either all in the office, and everything in between is too hard to do. What are you seeing?
There is no right or wrong answer, I would say, to that question. It really depends on the business and what, how you want to set up your systems. But, we, as I said, we're fully remote, but hybrid, I think at a minimum is going to be where we will probably settle somewhere in the middle of, 2 to 3 days in the office or 2 to 3 days remote. is kind of the happy medium where you get to engage, right? You can never take away the power of that physically being able to see somebody, you know, in person. I don't think that will get replaced in the long term. So I think the truth will lie somewhere in between there.
Yeah, and the other thing was the fact that younger workers didn't have the opportunity to network and build relationships like they wanted to. The other stat that we saw a lot, what was going on, was workers that were hired in the last 18 months had the highest attrition rates in terms of people leaving. And so that's why I was asking that question on inclusion.
It's hard to find a mentor. It's hard to find a sponsor. It's hard. Those hallway conversations, those random collisions, think about
so
it. You're a young
early in our
professional.
career.
Invaluable.
Yeah, connection is really key. And you know, the one last thought I would leave you guys with is a lot of leaders feel that you need to be strong for your employees, and you know, I think vulnerability is an important thing, and to show that you're vulnerable too. And I think that really creates a great connection with your teams, because they feel like you're right there with them. You're going through and experiencing the same things that you're going through.
Awesome wisdom. You are a trailblazer. I don't care what you saw on LinkedIn. You are a unique trailblazer. Awesome insight.
Skip the LinkedIn stuff.
Thank you, Paul.
We can't wait to read your book. Wow, so much wisdom. Awesome.
I did no peer pressure. You know, I'm not writing a book, guys.
I'm about to tweet. Neha is coming out with a book, 2022. Sorry.
We need to get you a book out there so you can actually get going. No, we'll write one with you. We'll write one with you.
Like a plan.
We're here
Thanks
with Neha Mirchandani, CMO and head of people at BrightPlan. You can follow her on Twitter at NMIRCHI. Looks like an early Twitter follower as well. So thanks a lot for being on the show, and happy Friday.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. I mean, you know, as a former CMO, I remember spending a lot of time with my CHRO, just on campaigns, but it was accidental. I never really thought about getting someone who leads the people success part to ensure that how we go to market is meaningful, purposeful. It's, you know, can connect with stakeholders. It just makes so much sense. But it is unique.
Massive brand alignment.
We've done 800 interviews almost. We've never had a CMO.
She's the
CHRO.
first.
Yeah, and we had,
first.
You know, we had head of Workday, founder of Workday on our show, and we talked about trends. And Neil Bushry never really talked about HR and marketing merging. So I think it's pretty trailblazing work. It's pretty awesome. Okay, speaking of trailblazers, we got more coming next Friday. Stephen Goldbach, CSO of Deloitte, will be on the show. We got Jeff Tuff, Senior Leader of Innovation Practice at Deloitte as well. So we're tag teaming. Jeff and Stephen are going to tag team and give us Deloitte research. And we got our favorite media co-founder, Jeff Reed, co-founder of Diginomica, who always brings his A game and has great lists of things that we should watch out for in terms of technology and business.
Yeah,
trends.
and John Reed is not only is he coming in, we've got a special guest, Dion Hinchcliffe, will also jump in as well. So
wow, all right.
Tee that up.
So episode 255, put on your seatbelts, bring your popcorn. It's going to be amazing. Okay, recap of today's show. I mean, God, I had no idea so much innovation happening in the password space. Shep is the smartest service expert I know. And of course, Neha just blew us away with her nuggets in terms of what the future of work would look like, and her incredible statement that the future is now. So don't wait for, you know, these new trends.
Don't wait. Don't wait.
It's happening. It's happening as we speak.
That's happening.
So Ray, your thoughts. And of course, you got a
great
conference
thanks.
coming up.
After those guys, what can I add? No, but look, we are seeing massive shifts, and people realize that in the midst of crisis, innovation occurs. This is one of the things: how we work, where we work, when we work. That's changing. Our expectations in terms of what's happening in the world of service is changing. That whole notion of biometrics, how we interface, machine-computer interfaces are changing the way we interact. Things are going to be seamless. They're going to be ambient, but they're going to be more secure. So I'm really looking forward to this. But we are at the beginning of this massive revolution, at the beginning of a decade. You know, it may seem like it's been awful so far, but it's going to be really good towards the end. And that's all we can say. So, but hey, everybody, thanks for being here. Happy Friday. And if it's Friday, it's DisrupTV, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, almost every Friday, though we won't have a show on the 29th because of Constellation Connected Enterprise. For those who are attending, it's October 25th through the 28th at the Half Moon Bay Ritz. So we hope to see you all there. So thanks a lot. So take care.